Hi, all my third grade friends. So, I am going to be reading to you guys from a chapter book. It's called Goblins in the Castle, and it's one of my all time favorite books by Bruce Coville. Bruce Coville's given permission for teachers to read his books during this weird time that we're in, and so I wanted to take advantage of it because I don't think it's a book you guys would normally pick up. And it's one of, I think, the best books I've ever written. But this book is my book. It's actually really important to me because it has Bruce Coville's signature in there from Igor. And you'll understand what the bop, bop, bop and the Igor is after we read this story. I'm going to be posting a chapter or two, sometimes three, depending on how long the chapters are, on Seesaw. And also, you can find them on my YouTube channel, which I'll make sure I get you the information for. I have other books on there that I've been reading as well. But today we're just going to start with the first chapter of the Goblins in the Castle to get you a taste for it. And then I will be posting more soon. I'm going to try and make these videos a little bit more fun than today's. I've been playing with some different things, so you had more fun stuff to look at than me while I'm reading. But today you can actually look at, there's my poster of Arnold Schwarzenegger and R2-D2. So, Goblins in the Castle. And there are some pictures in this book, so. Chapter 1, Discovery in the Dungeon. I was found on the drawbridge of Toad-in-a-Cage Castle on a cold December night. I was naked, they tell me, wrapped only in a blanket and tucked in a basket. If the Baron had not been out riding that night, he would not have seen me, and I would have been buried beneath the snow by morning. To the surprise of Hulda, his housekeeper, the Baron didn't send me away. Instead, he hired a nurse to come and take care of me. I liked Nurse, despite her unusual fondness for toads. However, when I was about 5, she fell into the moat and was eaten by something or other. After that, I pretty much took care of myself. I had the run of the castle and could go to anywhere I wanted except the North Tower, which was always locked. Naturally, I wanted to know what was up there, but I learned early on not to ask about it. Questions upset people. Not that there were many people to upset, only the Baron, Hulda, and Carl, the young man who tended the library. Ooh, I like libraries. I liked Carl. He was very smart, and when he had time, he would give me lessons. However, this did not happen often because caring for the library was a big job. The Baron owned so many books, he had to knock out the walls between 7 rooms to hold them all. Most of what I knew about the outside world came from the books Carl shared with me. The library itself was my favorite place in the castle. Its floor was covered by a thick, soft carpet, its walls made of dark wood. Mazes of tall, book-crammed shelves filled the interior. The windows, which curved out from the side of the building, were twice as tall as a man. The huge velvet curtains that covered them used to be red and were still soft and warm. On cold days, I liked to take a book and curl up on one of the sills, wrapping a curtain around me like a blanket. I would alternate between reading and staring out at the distant village, the forest, and the mountains. That sounds like a great place to be, doesn't it, friends? Can you imagine yourself there right now, all warm and cuddly? I'd have a cup of tea with me, looking out the window and reading this book. Wouldn't that be fun? I often wondered what it was like out there beyond the castle walls that I had never left. From one of the windows, I could see the North Tower, which was shrouded in mist on even the sunniest of days. Remember, the North Tower is where he's not allowed to go, it's all locked up. But he can see it through the window. So this must be a huge castle, friends, right? It's so big. Can you have it in your imagination? It's got to be so, so big. One rainy evening in October, Carl was repairing books, Hulda was sleeping, and the Baron was hidden away with one of the mysterious visitors that sometimes come to the castle gate. I was on my own, as usual. For some reason, perhaps because the voices that moaned along the hallway outside my room had been so loud the night before, I couldn't settle down to read. I went to my room and played with Mervyn, the rat I had tamed the year before. When he ran off, I decided to go to bed. Slipping out of my clothes, I pulled on my nightshirt, then drew aside the curtains surrounding my bed and climbed beneath the covers. I couldn't sleep. A streak of lightning sizzled through the night. I liked to watch lightning, so I got up and sat by my window. But the lightning did not continue. After a while, I grew tired of watching the thick drops splat against the glass and decided to go exploring. I had been exploring the castle for years and still hadn't discovered everything about it, partly because it was so huge, partly because it had so many secret passages and hidden rooms. These were what I looked for when I explored. To find them, I pushed bricks, moved picture frames, and fiddled with the knobs carved in the mantelpieces of the fireplaces. So to find all the hidden rooms, he had to play with things to try and figure out where they were. Doesn't that sound like fun to be? He's kind of stuck in his house as like we are right now, but he's finding fun things to do, and one of those things is to explore. Lighting a candle, I went to my own fireplace, which was tall enough to stand in. I pushed a certain brick, and the fireplace swung around, putting me in the passage behind it. I had discovered this passage when I was only 6. Once in it, I could get into any other room on my floor. But since it was my floor, since I was the only person living there, it didn't do me much good. The worst thing about the secret passages was that they were so dark. When I first started exploring, I had tried taking torches with me, but somehow the Baron always found out and told me not to. I understood why. Some passages were lined with wood, or even drapes, and it would have been easy to start a fire in them. Finally, I had started carrying candles. They didn't provide much light, but they were better than nothing, and the Baron never said anything about them. Wonder how the Baron knew he had the torches. Do you think he knows everything the little boy's doing in the story? We don't know his name yet, so I'm just going to call him the little boy for now. About 100 feet from my room, a hidden stairway led to some secret rooms in the East Tower. Holding my candle before me, I made my way to the steps, then climbed 3 flights to a room dominated by a clock, several feet taller than I am. Here's a picture of my friend. There's his clock. You see him in his nightgown with his candle. I had seen this clock many times without ever really looking at it, but on this day I felt a hunch about it. A hunch. He feels like there's something about it that could be different. Opening the glass panel door, I put my hand inside. The wood behind the counterweight seemed solid, but when I climbed a chair and moved the hands of the clock to point straight up, as if it were midnight, I heard the familiar whisper of a sliding panel. The back of the clock had disappeared. Look again at this picture, friends. Look at that clock. It's midnight. I jumped off the chair, squeezing my way through the clock's door. I found myself in a narrow passage. Keeping one hand against the smooth, cool stones of the wall, I moved slowly forward. Even with the candle, I didn't notice the stairway going down until I put my foot on a spot that wasn't there. Have you ever done that where you think you're going to step down and you go, oof? The jolt knocked the breath out of me. Had I not been going slowly, I probably would have broken my neck falling down that stairwell, which stretched as far as I could see, no matter how high I lifted the candle. I began to count as I walked. 50 steps, 100 steps, 200 steps. By now I must be down among the wine cellars. 300 steps. I began to wish I had changed back into my clothes. The air was cool down here. I had to be far past the wine cellars now, all the way to the dungeons. I shivered. I'd never been to the dungeons before. In fact, I only knew they existed because Carl had told me about them, hinting that they held dark secrets. 400 steps. 450. How far into the earth does this stairway go? I wondered, as I neared the 500th step. But number 500 was the end of it. Keeping my left hand pressed against the wall, I moved slowly forward. 15 paces brought me to a wooden door held together by thick iron cross pieces. I could either turn back or open the door. Grasping the latch, which was enormous, I struggled to lift it without making any sound. It's hard to say why I felt a need to move so quietly. I was sure I was alone, but something about moving in the darkness inspired silence. Besides, I liked to keep secrets. When I managed to lift the latch, the door swung open easily. I saw a light flickering in the distance. My heart began to beat more rapidly. Who could possibly be down here? Again, I thought about turning back, but my curiosity was driving me on, and I felt confident I could move so silently no one would know I was coming, though I don't think even then I really believed there was anyone there. I started toward the light. Soon I could tell that it came from beyond a curve in the wall. As I continued forward, I could see the outlines of the stones in the floor. The wall itself was damp and slightly chill beneath my fingers. Even so, I pressed myself against it when I reached the curve. Inching my way forward, I saw the source of the light, a torch stuck in a bracket. To my astonishment, I also heard someone singing. The voice was little more than a growl. but the tune was rollicking. It was fun. It was kind of a joyous sound. I could not make out the words. I stopped and tried to talk myself into turning back. But in my whole life, I had never met anyone besides Nurse, the Baron, Hulda, and Carl. I had to know who was down here. Dropping to the floor, I set my candle down and began to creep forward. Beyond the torch, an open door led to the source of the singing. Closer I crept, closer still, until I had almost reached the door. I took a deep breath. Slowly, ever so slowly, I poked my head around the corner. Okay, friends, that's the end of chapter 1. I hope you're excited like I am to find out what he found when he went around that corner. I'll post another video next week with chapter 2. But if you're looking for more, the videos will be on my YouTube link page as well, which this link will lead you to. I will see you next week.